What if the person you've been waiting on, the one you keep making excuses for, the one you keep believing is almost there, the one you've restructured your entire emotional life around, doesn't exist? What if that version of them never did exist? And what if the relationship that's been breaking your heart isn't even real? I know that's brutal to hear, but what I'm about to show you in the next 4 minutes will explain more about your pain than years of trying to figure out what went wrong. Don't move. Think about the relationship that hurts you most right now. Maybe it's a partner who loves you, but not in the way you desperately need. Maybe it's a parent who was physically present your entire childhood, but emotionally somewhere else entirely. Maybe it's a friendship you poured everything into and somehow still ended up feeling invisible inside of. Maybe it's someone whose potential you fell in love with and you've been waiting for that potential to show up ever since. Here's what all of those situations have in common. You are not suffering because of who they are. You are suffering because of who you decided they were supposed to be. And nobody ever told you those are two completely different people. Every close relationship you have is running on a contract. Not one you signed, not one you ever discussed, an invisible one built from assumptions, hopes, expectations, and unspoken needs. If I show up for you, you'll show up for me. If I love you this deeply, you'll love me back the same way. If I sacrifice for this relationship, you'll notice it and meet me halfway. Nobody agreed to this. Nobody even knew it existed. But you've been enforcing it silently and constantly, and feeling devastated every time they break rules they never knew they were playing by. The relationship isn't broken, the contract is, and you wrote it alone. Here's the most compassionate and clarifying truth in all of this. People can only love you at the level of their own healing. The parent who never showed up emotionally wasn't withholding from you specifically. They were empty. They gave you everything they had, and what they had simply wasn't enough. The partner who shuts down instead of communicating isn't doing it to punish you. They don't have the tools. Nobody ever gave them the tools. The friend who vanished when you needed them most wasn't choosing against you. They were drowning themselves and didn't know how to swim, let alone save someone else. This doesn't excuse it. It doesn't mean you stay. But it means something enormous. Their limitations were never a reflection of your worth. Not once, not ever. Most people are not grieving the relationship they actually had. They're grieving the relationship they imagined. The version of that person they were convinced existed underneath everything else. The potential that felt so real, so close, so almost there. You weren't in love with who they were. You were in love with who you believed they could become. You cannot build a real life waiting for a person who only exists inside your hope. So, what do you do with all of this? You let them be exactly who they are, not who you need them to be, not who you wish they were, who they actually are. Let them love you at the level they're capable of, and then ask yourself honestly, is that enough for you? Let them show you their patterns and believe them. Not the apology, not the good week after the bad month. The pattern. Let them be human, limited, imperfect, shaped by wounds you didn't create. Decide clearly, without resentment, whether this is a life you truly want to keep building. Let them be real so you can finally make a real decision. You have spent so long trying to close the gap between who they are and who you need them to be. That gap is not yours to close. It never was. Let them be who they are. Let me see it clearly. Let me decide from truth, not from hope, not from fear, not from history, from truth. Send this to someone who's been loving a version of a person that only exists inside their own heart. They need to hear this today.